In the last video we took a step forward in that we saw how we could within Orchestrator pass a whole service request through. The problem with this though was the limitation about the information that could be stored in the service request. Indeed, we could only pass 2 parameters through, and that was by fudging it by using title and description. Now, to go any further forward, we're going to have to look at how we can extend the service request, and this is done through the Service Manager authoring tools. There's a couple of ways of doing this. We can either use the authoring tool manager here, or we can use Visual Studio extensions. For the basic stuff we're going to do at the moment, I would probably suggest to most people to use the authoring tools unless you're a hardened or seasoned programmer and happy coding directly in XML. So just going to take a step back for the moment to understand what a service request and what an incident and what these are fundamentally made up from. So you may already know this, but it's just a bit of background information. So within within Service Manager, all the components are made up by management packs, and what management packs generally create a relationship between Service Manager and the database. And what management packs do is they allow the system to be extendable without having to be a seasoned programmer or a database administrator. The whole point of the management packs is it kind of abstracts the database level behind. So the idea being that the service request management pack is a set of properties, and we can have a look at that in the management authoring tool by going to our class browser and looking for service request. When we look at the service request and we expand it out, we can kind of see all the things that make up a service request: the description, the display name, the created time, and all these kind of square boxes. These are properties. These are, the fields that you'd have in a database, and they're mapping to fields within Service Manager. And these are the stuff where we can store information. Going further down, these arrows represent relationships. So with all the properties, it's basically either a string or a field or a single entity. Whereas with the relationships, these are normally relationships to other management packs. So in the concept of a user, you couldn't just have a single property of, say, James Sillett, because there's going to be other properties around that user. I'm going to have an email address, I'm going to have a position or a distinguished name in Active Directory, I'm going to belong to groups, I'm going to have permissions, all of these things. So, a user in itself is a configuration item, and a configuration item is again a management pack which relates to a table within a database. And so by using relationships, we're able to link management packs together. And a user may have a relationship with a service request in a number of different ways. They may be the affected user. They may be the person who's actually carrying out the service request. They may be requesting it on behalf of someone else. They may be the person who's closed it. So you could see that the user management pack could relate to the service request management pack in lots of different ways. And likewise, configuration items. If we've got a service request to make a change on an application, that may affect 3 or 4 servers, and so those servers are a computer. The computer is a configuration item within the management pack, and that's again got a relationship with the browser. Now the point is, if we want to create a specific service request that's going to have quite a few fields in it, such as setting up a new user on our system, we're going to want to extend this service request. And why this might seem a bit daunting, using authoring tools and XML files and stuff like that, it is really quite simple. So we're going to start by extending the service request to allow us to store a few extra fields, and then what we're going to do as we go along, we're going to extend the number of properties or fields, and we're going to create more relationships, and we're also going to create configuration items and stuff to give us all the information that we need to make this project work. So to start with, we're going to create a new management pack, because ultimately this extension of the service request is going to need to store the information somewhere, and that's going to be within a management pack, which will then import into Service Manager. So I'm going to call this my new AD user management pack MP. And for the moment we're going to do this as an unsealed management pack, but very quickly we're going to have to start sealing our management packs, and I'll explain that in a minute. So we can see our management pack Explorer, our new AD user MP, and we've got this section for classes, forms and workflows. So what we're going to do is we're going to come to our view and class browser, and we're going to search for our service desk, a service request even. And what we're going to do is we're going to right click and we're going to view in our management pack Explorer, and we can right click and we're going to say inherit from this class. So what we're going to do is we're going to inherit this class, and so we can then add additional parameters to it, or properties. If we just extend the class, and what we're going to do is actually just extend it for the standard. So we're going to inherit and click OK, and we're going to call our class service request new AD user as its internal name. You're not allowed spaces. And here we can now go to properties, and we can give this a new name. By double clicking on it, you'll see behind the list of all the properties. Let's just close these to give us a bit more real estate. Okay, so you'll see all the properties that were in the original service request, what we saw earlier. So we've got properties which are like date and time and string, and we'll also see relationships. So for the moment, we're just going to create a few extra properties. We're going to call this username, last name, first name. And we're just going to do this to follow our standard template that we've been doing so far. Then we're going to come back later and add loads more properties and relationships, etc. So we're just going to save this. And just go and close this down, go back to our class browser, just want to make sure this is named properly. Perfect, right, so it's got the correct name there. Okay, so we're going to come out of our authoring tool. We're going to come into Service Manager, Administration, and we're going to import that management pack. Okay, it's going to give us a warning because it's unsealed. Okay, so now that we've imported the management pack, we've got this class that is inherited from service requests, so it has all the same info as service requests, but it's also now got these 3 additional properties. Now to take advantage of this, we're going to have to create a template. Now we've got our original service request template here, so we're going to have to create a new one because we can't change the class that it's based on after it's been created. So we're just going to create our service request, create new AD user, and call this v2. We're going to find our class. Okay, we can see our service request new AD user in the management pack. We double click that, select OK. We can see that this looks like an ordinary service request, except at the top here under extensions, we now have additional boxes where we can add the information related to the properties we've just created. Now I should have, when I created this management pack, and I will do later, I should have named these better using the display name with spaces, and that we can also set things like restrictions to make sure they're just strings, maximum length, minimum length, required, uppercase, lowercase, all that kind of stuff, and we'll go back over that in a little bit more detail. So we need to add our runbook back in. So runbook, new AD user, And we need to create the linking back to our service request. So we select our service request here and select the ID and just make sure that's taken. So yeah, root work item. So we're going to create a new request offering. Select the template. We're going to use our version 2 template. Prompts. So we've got our username, first name, surname, all strings, and now we can do our mapping. Now you can see that we have, before where we only had title and description, we've now got these extra properties that are available. So it's just a simple mapping. Okay, surname to last name, not the end of the world. And we come to our service offerings. Okay, so we're not quite there though. We have updated our service offering to use the new template. The new template uses the new class. The class has the additional properties. Those properties are now all within that service request. We need to come back over to Orchestrator. The problem is when we come to Orchestrator and we pick up this object here, remember here with the original class here was service request. So the objects are not going to be available within Orchestrator. So what we need to do is just change the service request here to service request new AD user. And in the same way, we're going to need to pick up the GUID that's been passed through. What we can do now is under the create user, we can delete this. We can bring back in our last name. Okay. Under service request, we are going to find a username, last name, and first name. Because we're using this new class, we've got all that information available. We need to check this back in. Okay, so now we come back to our portal. We can go to our service catalog, create new AD user. We're going to create a username, something along the lines of extended. And submit. That's been successfully sent through. We can come into our service desk, all open service requests, 180 here, in progress. Come over to our orchestrator. We can see at 709 that everything has successfully come through. We can look at this service request. We can look at the service request here, and we will see things such as last name, fully extended. If we come over to our Active Directory, let's see what Mr. Extended, first name fully extended, last name Mr. Extended. So there's one final thing we need to cover off now. If we go back to our service, our service manager authoring tool. Now that we've created this class, this management pack, we don't want to have to keep deleting and recreating the orchestrator part and recreating the templates, etc. each time. Well, what we want to do is to be able to just go in, extend the management pack that we've created and re-import into Service Desk, and just to upgrade everything that's already there. Now to do this, we have to seal the management pack. And to seal the management pack isn't particularly difficult. What we need to do is we just open up our XML file. We can come to our management pack and we can select seal management pack. And all we need to do is enter a company and enter a key. And the question is, how do you generate a key? Okay, so to create the key, you need a public and private key, and the point of the key really is to make sure that you are the person who, when it's imported, it makes sure that it's the person who claimed has created it, hasn't been altered or tampered in any way. So to do this, we would come into the Visual Studio command prompt, or the developer command prompt, and this will get installed when you install the Service Manager authoring tool. Yeah, and the command we're going to use is sn. And to do this, all we're going to do is type sn/k into .snk. And this has created the into sync key in this location here. So if I come over to here and go to Program Files, Visual Studio 14, should find the into key. Hit seal. It means the management pack has now been sealed. If we come back to our administration console here and import, we change this from a .xml to .mp, and we'll now see that's an MP because it's now sealed. So what I should say is not going to allow me to import this because there is already an unsealed management pack in there. So what we need to do is find that management pack. I'm going to delete it, and when we delete this, it's going to remove everything that we've linked towards it or to it. Now this is successfully imported. We come back to our library and go to our templates. You can see our version 2.1 has been deleted. We're going to have to recreate this from scratch. But the good thing is, if we do create very quickly, just create this from scratch. Okay, let's see about our extensions, so that's all good. We come back to our management pack and decide, right, well actually we now want to create another property. We're going to say his email address, so we'll create an email address for this new person that's going to be set up. Okay, we're going to save. I'm going to view the management pack, and we're going to now seal this again. Overwrite original file. Come to our Service Manager and import. Okay, you can see it's incremented by version 2. And if we come now down to our library, see, this time it hasn't deleted our v2. You can see by going to our extensions, it's added the email address. So now that we've sealed it, we can continue to develop this management pack throughout the other videos without having to keep recreating the service request, recreating the orchestrator side of things. And so we can just develop this naturally. Well, it's been a long video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you all.